Hi, I'm Lisa Campion, and this is the Miracle of Healing on Empower Radio, where we come together every week to discuss all kinds of different types of healing. And I don't know about you guys, but man, we need more healing than ever. So I just want to welcome you. If you're new to my show, then I'm so glad you're here. And if you've been on the journey with us for a while, welcome back. Wow, so what do you do when your brain breaks? And I have to tell you, this is a very personal conversation for me because I had COVID. If you can believe it or not, I've had it twice. I'm one of those rare people. And in my struggle from recovering from COVID, I had tons of brain fog. Couldn't think straight. I was really, really struggling. And somewhere along the lines there, I talked to my friend Raffaele, who's with us today, about what do I do about my brain fog? And he's like, I have the thing for you. Um, and it's this incredible, uh, neurofeedback. Like, is it possible to recover from brain injury? You can, and neurofeedback has really done it for me. And not only can you recover from brain injury, things like concussions, traumatic brain injury, even PTSD and ADD, but once you get your brain back kind of fixed, you can harmonize and optimize your brain and the way that you think for high performance, which is what I'm working on now after my brain has recovered. So I'm super happy to bring my friend Raffaele Gianfrancesco on the show. He's been fascinated with people's brains his whole life. I think because he wasn't sure, like, people's brains were okay. Maybe everyone was suffering from brain damage. He's really an incredible energy healer. And was a philosophy student actually, too, when he went to university. But I think he's really thrown himself into the study of how do our brains function and work, and how can we neuro-optimize them. So welcome to the show, Raffaele. I'm so glad that you're here.
Hi, Lisa. So happy to be here.
Yeah, and thank you. I have such deep gratitude for you because I was in a bad shape. And, I really had a lot of problems with COVID. I had heart problems and lung problems, all gut problems, and I could kind of fix those. Like I worked with some of my friends who are doctors and do other natural things. But the one thing I got better. But the one thing I couldn't figure out how to fix was my brain, and this was a problem because I got a contract to write my third book, and I couldn't do it. I would sit down and I'd literally I was drool and like not thinking in a proper sentence. And it's been a miracle using your technology. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how you got into this kind of work. Let's start with that.
Okay, sure. So I was in energy medicine school, and I was doing all the work in terms of personal mastery, because if you're going to try to work towards helping other people heal, it's really important you get your own house in order. And through that process, I really started to notice that I just had a lot of deep buried stuff that was just in there, that no matter how much talk therapy I did in my life, no matter how much processing work I did, inner child work, art therapy, chakra work, I mean, you know how many things we've tried in our healing journey, and it just always felt like nothing really stuck. Nothing got to the crux of what was going on. And I was really starting to get frustrated and a little disheartened that, like, maybe this is just who I am. This is how I am. Like, I'm just going to be kind of this limping along broken guy, and doing the best I can. And mind you, I mean, I've done well. I have a lot of really sophisticated compensatory strategies, but they use up a lot of energy. You're throwing up that kind of image of, I'm okay, everything's great, and that really sucks up a lot of bandwidth. And so at the end of the day, you're just really wiped out. So I stumbled across some books on trauma and growing through trauma by Bessel van der Kolk. He's phenomenal. Severn Fisher, who actually is one of the people that invented neurofeedback. Gabor Mate, who is a Hungarian doctor who is basically a poster child for trauma. He had a lot of trauma. He was a child in the Holocaust. And all of these people really recognize that the trauma that occurs especially if it occurs early on in life, becomes ingrained in your physiology. It becomes part of not just your physical body, but part of the way your brain is wired. And I learned that if I was going to heal, I needed to figure out how to rewire my brain. And so I just started searching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how did you come across the Neuroptimal technology?
So I read a book by Sabrin Fisher, which is using neurofeedback in the healing of childhood trauma. And that's not the exact title, but maybe we could put it in the notes later. But she basically outlined how she discovered neurofeedback quite by accident and fell in love with it, and how it was just doing amazing things for kids with autism and epilepsy, and people with migraines, and all these different types of symptoms that you wouldn't even necessarily think were brain related were being helped by neurotraining and neurofeedback. And so, what I've learned through this journey is that everything is related to your brain.
Yeah,
Just
I would
absolutely
say.
everything.
I would say I agree with that too. So what actually is neurofeedback therapy? Like, how does it work?
Okay, so neurofeedback is just another form of biofeedback, and a lot of people are familiar with the different biofeedback devices, which will tell you what your heart rate is, tell you what your skin temperature is, galvanometers, which will tell you how much moisture you have. A lie detector is a biofeedback device. Okay, and so neurofeedback is basically biofeedback for your brain. And the way it works is, I've got a neat little device here that I'll show you, okay? This is it's called a Z amp. It's an amplifier, and you have one too.
I love
Yeah,
mine.
see? Yeah. And so it's got these wonderful little silver leads that come out of it. They're sensors that you attach to, you clip them to the tops of your ears, and you clip one to your earlobe, and then two of them go on your scalp on either side, okay? And the way it works is it reads the voltage coming off your scalp, because they've actually been able to prove and show that they can tell what kind of state your brain is just by the voltage that's coming out of it. They can actually see a pattern for happy. They can see a pattern for sad. They can see a pattern for transcendent states. There's a neat story I'll tell you later about this Navy SEAL who could see ghosts, and he basically he never told anybody about it. And this neurofeedback person who was doing neurotraining for the Navy SEALs saw the brain pattern for being able to see non-physical beings. And when he was interviewing the guy, he said, "By the way, do you see things that aren't there to most people?" And the guy freaked out. He's like, "Why do you know that?"
Don't tell
And because
anybody.
he had only told one person, and he was like livid because it would affect his standing in the Navy SEAL community if they thought he was this woo, I can see ghosts kind of guy. But I mean, there's people out there that can see things that other people can't see, and there's brain patterns that can be identified that show that. So the neurofeedback basically is a mirror to your brain. So with that amplifier that I just showed you, it feeds into a computer, which we provide, and that computer processes the signals coming from your scalp and basically runs it through a really sophisticated program and gives your brain, for the first time ever in its life, an accurate mirroring of what it is doing second by second. And
Because your
really,
brain
how can you
can't
change?
tell. Your brain can't tell. That has no internal sensor
Mm-hmm.
so that it can communicate to you what it's doing
Mm-hmm.
itself in a way, right?
Right, exactly. So, it's a poor analogy, but it's the best one we have. It's kind of like a computer, all right? If your computer catches a virus, okay, it'll now all of a sudden start running all these weird things. The different things will show up on the screen. You cannot control the keyboard. It'll heat up. The fan will start running. You won't be able to turn it on or off. And so you've lost control of the computer because this bug is now running things. Okay. That's what happens in your brain when you've got these deep set programs that were put in there when we were very, very young, or that can get installed if something really traumatic or scary happens to us. They just start running in the background automatically, and you don't know they're there. because you didn't put them there, but you're running them, and they use up energy, and they use up bandwidth, and they use up life force.
Right. So what happens, so I've been doing this every day for over a month now. It's about 30 minutes, 33 minutes or something. When you listen to music, you put the electrodes on you and you put earphones on and attach it all to the computer, and I just lie down and go lights out. But music plays, and when your brain glitches, it gives you this little feedback in the sound and the music. The music is really lovely. I love it. And it's just like a little like zzz, it's like a little like you described, like a skip in a record. And it's like a little zzz kind of sound that and you don't have to, it's not like you have to sit there and think, oh, that's my brain out of whack. Like it's just your brain will learn on its own that that it's gone off the rails a little. Is that an accurate way to describe it?
Yeah. So, our bodies are miracles. They have a wonderful intelligence for healing. So, we cut ourselves or break a bone. You don't have to do anything to fix it. Okay. Obviously, you dress a wound, but it's not like you have to consciously tell your cells to duplicate and send white blood cells.
New bone.
Exactly. So your body has that innate intelligence that tells it, what to do in that circumstance. Well, your brain and your mind has the same thing if it's presented with the right information. There is a blueprint for the ideal you-ness, okay? And it's in there. And it's just covered up by all this crap. So what the feedback is doing is it's cluing the brain in to the stuff that it's doing that doesn't serve you. Now, it's not saying this isn't good, because there's no such thing as good or bad in this. There's just feedback. So if, like you said, glitching, okay? If you get the feedback, the sound in your ear, like the little clicky thing, all that really means is that your brain just shifted patterns, okay? It just went from one mode to another. Now, that could mean something constructive. It could mean that it was doing something quite healthy for you, okay? But it doesn't know that unless it makes the association that, oh, I got the feedback, and right before I got the feedback, I was thinking this or doing this or running this program. So with repeated training, the brain learns patterns that, oh, every time I think about that kind of time, and even though it's subconscious thought, you're not having the thought in your brain, it's a subconscious pattern. Every time that subconscious pattern manifests, I get feedback that says, oh, you're doing it again. Now the brain gets to choose, does that serve me? Do I want to do it again? Do I want to delete it? And over time, it can learn to overwrite those patterns. It doesn't happen like, instant, because it took a long time for those things to get put in there. It takes time for them to come out. But for the first time, the brain has a chance to do it.
Right. So my brain was just super jacked up after having COVID twice, and I was really in a bad way, since I couldn't think straight, And what I noticed was maybe 3 or 4 weeks of using the rig every day, all of a sudden I could think again, and there were times when I would just I felt like my brain was craving it. Does that make sense? I would be like, oh, I need that thing, and I'd be like, well, I can't wait to get really couldn't wait to get to do it. And my brain would be like, okay, and it was about that that first month that I feel like it recovered from the injury. Does that make sense? Is that sort of a normal thing that happens with?
Yeah. So, two things happen there. First of all, your brain remembered what it felt like to be whole and healed, but also you probably touched on another level where you kind of up-leveled a little bit. And so just like meditators, like people that sit in meditation for days and weeks and months, and they're just, waiting for that experience where they kind of get that light or, that feeling in the meditation. And when that happens, now every time they sit down, whether they know it or not, they're searching for that again, And so they call it samadhi or satori, depending on the meditation tradition you're in. But it's your brain knows what it feels like to feel really good now.
Right.
And so with repeated training, your brain is also going to learn how to manifest that state more readily, even if you do sit down for just 10 minutes and meditate. So it's not like you're married to this device for the rest of your life now in order to be able to function, or hi kitty, in order to be able to function or to feel good. What it's doing is it's giving you the tools now to be able to enter these states more reliably on your own through meditation, through yoga, whatever you happen to be doing. Your brain's going to go, oh, she wants to relax. Okay, I know how to do that.
Right. Yep.
Or she wants to be creative. I know how to do that.
So it seems to me like there's sort of one phase, which is like recovering from trauma, recovering from, like, I really wanted my son to use this. And I did bring it up for him. He's a veteran, you know, he's 25, but he's already a veteran from the Marines. And his brain was jacked up before he went into the Marines because he was a football player in high school and had all kinds of concussions. And then, you know, a lot happened to him when he was in the military. So many of our veterans have brain injury issues, you know,
Right.
And it's always been my feeling that the corresponding depression, anxiety, PTSD, you know, it's sort of hard to separate that from brain injury. Like they seem like they go hand in hand, you know, and
Absolutely.
we, I could imagine that this kind of technology could really help somebody in his state, you know, recover from both the brain injury and the traumas that he's had to deal with.
So, you know, there's different modes that the brain can be in. There's lethargy, which is all the way at the low end of the frequency spectrum, and then there's hypervigilance and anxiety and traumatic stress response, which is the high end of the frequency spectrum. Generally, post-traumatic stress disorder tends to be, you know, in that higher range where you're always kind of looking out for the next scary, horrible thing that's about to happen.
Hypervigilance.
Yeah. So the way our brain learns, our brain is designed to keep us alive. So the way our brain learns is it says, you know, what's the most dangerous thing out there and what do I have to do to avoid it? And once it learns something, it doesn't unlearn it. It doesn't like go, okay, now I haven't been, you know, threatened by a shell in 6 months. I guess I'm safe. It's always looking for that stimulus so that it can react to it. Once it's been exposed to it, unless you program yourself from it, it's always going to be looking for it. And that's why as we get older, it gets harder to deal with stress too, because you get a lifetime of accumulated micro stresses. And, you know, it's like opening tabs on your browser on the computer. If you open your Mac and you open 100 programs and then you open 100 tabs in the Safari browser, you know, your computer is going to slow down to a crawl. It's going to wear out really fast. It's not going to work very well. And it's like you have all these tabs open in your brain, just looking out for this danger and that danger and that danger. And so what this helps you do is close those tabs. Say, all right, I don't need this right now. You know, I'm in a safe place. And the brain will see, like, I'm reacting in a vigilant state, even though I'm in a safe place. Is that a good idea? And again, the system isn't saying don't do that. That's not the right thing to do. It's saying, hey, notice that you're in a safe place and notice how you're feeling. Is there some dissonance here? And the brain wants to be whole. It wants to heal, and it will move towards wholeness and health.
So what about people with like ADD or depression or other things like that? How does it work for that?
So believe it or not, you would think that ADD is towards the faster waves because they call it ADHD, but ADD is actually towards the slower waves. It's kind of a dreamy state. It's a creative state where you're aware of everything, but in a kind of a like a gooey sort of way. And I have well, no, hold on. I'm going to correct myself here. I exhibited ADD-like symptoms for a large part of my life. And through meditation and specifically brain training, especially the brain training, I have been able to buckle down and accomplish things that I never thought I'd be able to do. I was not someone that could sit and just plow through a book and just read it and digest it and know what was in there. I
Dude,
couldn't
now you're
make
reading
myself
these
sit.
big fat books on neurology and all kinds of stuff
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh, it's hilarious, and I love it. I've become a total nerd for this stuff. So yeah, it helps a lot. So there's like you mentioned something that was very interesting earlier about the leveling up. So if you've got a student that has ADD or ADHD and they're having trouble attending and sticking with whatever they have to do to be successful as a student or successful as an employee, neurotraining can definitely help with that, because it's going to give you the tools to be able to put your brain in the optimum state. Oh, no, I'm going to correct myself. Allow your brain to enter the optimum state on its own, that it is always capable of doing, but doesn't, because it doesn't know where it is in the present moment. Okay.
Right.
So athletes, there's professional athletes that do neurotraining all the time to get into and stay in the zone.
Yeah.
NASA uses it for space, for astronauts and the Air Force, for pilots, anybody that has to be super quick, super on point, that's responsible for really expensive military equipment. They do brain training. They do.
Interesting.
Tony
So it's
Robbins
like
loves brain training.
Tony, I know I was going to say Tony does it. And so it seems like for me, this is what happened for sure. The first month that I was using it was like brain recovery. That's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm into the second month, I feel like it's optimizing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where you get peak performance, peak, concentration, where you can really like raise your ability to concentrate, focus, and be creative to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm. And what's different about the Neuroptimal system that's different from all the other? Because there's like all kinds of like things you clip to your ear, like that. I don't know, like what.
Oh
There's
yeah,
a
there's
million of these.
headbands now. There's 100 toys that you can buy now to do these sorts of things. Some of them are meditation aids. Some of them bill themselves as neurofeedback, but they're not really. It's kind of an interesting thing, because there's no real because it's biofeedback. I mean, if I clip the little thing out of my finger to measure my pulse rate, I'm doing biofeedback, but what's that really doing for me unless I combine it with some other modality and some sort of protocol. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't discourage anybody from trying anything that they think can help them, but it's kind of like you can take a go-kart to the mall, or you can drive a Ferrari. They'll both get you there, and they're both vehicles. They both have four wheels. They both have motors. But they're different. They're just
And
different.
this is the Ferrari.
This is the Ferrari. It's just amazing, and it's great because you can do it in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go to somebody's office. There's nobody kind of there's ways to do it where they take a snapshot of your brain, and then they compare your brain to normal brains, and then they start telling you how you can improve by doing this, and now they're trying to diagnose you, and I don't agree with that. I think that the best way to do it is to allow your brain's innate ability to heal itself, to be able to do so through receiving feedback, accurate feedback, for the first time.
Right. Wow. Well, and how do people get in touch with you if they want to know more about it? Like what would be another step that people can take to find out about it?
So my website is rineurofeedback.com. So it's all one word, rineurofeedback.com. And you can email me through there. There's a submit contact form. My phone number is up there. I do free consultatory calls so that you can just learn about it. This is going to be a wonderful tool, this interview, to get people started on the path, but people are going to have specific questions, and I'm happy to answer them. Do a discovery call at no charge to see if neurofeedback is right for you.
Right. So what could happen is that somebody would talk to you about it, decide they want to do it, have a consultation with you, and then you literally can like mail them the machine, the computer. It's available to rent by the month. And then you help them figure out how to use it. It's quite easy to use. I didn't have any, the only problem I had was getting those little things to stick in my hair because I have so much dang hair, you know? And I'm like, and dealing with the aftermath of that stuff in my hair, there's this cream that you put on the contacts to, you know, that's like conductive stuff that's sticky, conductive, that make the electrodes stick on you. But I mean, it's not hard to use, simple. I can do it.
Yeah, it's the
Anyone can do it.
electroconductive paste can be a challenge. So most people do it before they shower. They train before they
Yeah,
shower. You know, but
I
it
know,
is
'cause
water. You get to get it out with water, so it's easy.
yeah, and it's not too hard to set it up. Like, I'm sure, like, kids can do it. Like, you could probably put it on your kids while they're watching TV or sleeping or doing their homework. Or I know other people have, you know, watched the kind of the pretty lights that go with the video, but I don't. I just go lights out. I'm like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And
sleeping.
if you fall asleep, you're still getting the benefits. So
Yeah, that's so cool. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for first of all, saving my brain with this incredible technology, because I honestly, like, I talked to my doctor about it, and I was like, you know, should I go to a neurologist? And they're like, well, you could, but they don't know, like, what's going to help your brain recover from this post-COVID stuff. We don't know. How long is it going to last? We don't know. What's going to help? We don't know. You know, and they don't know because it's so new. Nobody really knows, you know, what. And I'm just eternally grateful to have my brain back.
Well, you know
really
what's funny? What's really funny, and it's not funny, it's sad, is that it's the exact same story with Lyme disease. Lyme disease is a neurological condition as well that they don't know a lot about how it affects the brain. And there's studies that show how neurofeedback helps with Lyme disease too, the brain fog that goes with Lyme disease.
And we both live in Rhode Island, which is like Lyme Central. You know, here in New England, there's the other epidemic that's happening right now. The other pandemic for New England
it's another pandemic.
Lyme
It
disease.
absolutely is.
You know,
It
and there's so
absolutely
many
is.
things that I think probably, like we said, concussions or brain injury, like all the things that go. You know, I wanted to try it with my mom who has Alzheimer's and see how, you know, whether you know, how, I wonder if it would work for that and what would happen. I don't know, but there, you know,
it increases neuroplasticity, so it can certainly, you know, get the brain moving.
And that's been a concern for me because you know, it runs in my family. So I have more than just my mother. Relatives in my family have had pretty serious Alzheimer's. So I'm hoping that, you know, continuing to use the machine will help me not have to go down that path. I'm pretty attached to my brain.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Raffaele, for being here, and for
thank you.
Personally, big thank you for this incredible technology. And I felt really passionately about helping you spread the word on it because it's been a lifesaver for me.
Wonderful.
And thanks all of you guys for being with us today on this incredible journey. Thank you so much. If you want to stop by and visit me, you can find me on my website, lisacampion.com. Stop by. I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you think of the show, or if you have any questions about anything we talk about, just drop by and visit. And just a big heartfelt thank you from the Miracle of Healing, where we are saving the planet one person at a time right here on Power Radio.